Okay, so we're going to roll into gear. This is Doug Cogswell. I'm here with John Lawyers.
Hello.
We're going to talk about credential-based filtering. This is a topic that came up at the last user group by popular demand, so we're going to just sort of run through it. I'm going to do a few pages in PowerPoint to overview what this is about, then John's going to step in and show you how to make it work. So the concept, Advisor software supports enterprise data security based on Windows domain credentials. This allows authors to efficiently deploy large projects to diverse user communities so each user sees only the data they're authorized to see. And there's two different approaches here which we're going to go through. The first is separate projects for separate groups, and there's a variety of reasons you might want to do that. And the second approach is one project that filters to multiple separate users. And we'll talk about each of these and then show you examples of how to set them up. The first one, and John, feel free to jump in if I get this wrong or need some help. The first one leverages Windows authentication at the directory level, and it works around domain names and groups. So, it could be a sales region, could be a group. You might have the North region, another group of people might be in the South region, so it's fully that way. It works with the Analyst X, the Analyst, the client products, as well as Advisor Server, Web, and iPad. And effectively here, you're putting security around the project file, if I've got this right. And then when a user tries to access the project file, either over the client or the server, it prompts for their credentials, and then their credentials are either approved or denied based on whether they're in the allowed name list or the group list. Did I get that correct?
Right. Well, the prompting is in the server environment. For desktop clients, you use normal Windows permissions to decide who gets access to the file.
Okay. The second one is a little different. One project that filters to multiple separate users. So here, the project opens, like if it's a prospect identification project, it's going to open with all of the entities in it. But the users see only the data they're authorized to see. So you have multiple people on one project, each are seeing a subset. So maybe somebody's seeing alums, somebody else comes in and sees parents, somebody else comes in and sees organizations. This only works on Advisor Server, which is Web or iPad. This does not work on the client products. This is a multi-user system where each user is coming in and basically, our projects, the concept of the text filter is basically applying a text filter to allow them what to see when they log in, but that filter is not available for them to turn on or off. This, the advantages are plus one project to maintain. It's more efficient on RAM because you have one project instead of multiple projects and groups. But it's a little harder to set up, and it runs on a user basis, not a groups basis. So to the extent people are in groups currently, this level of filtering, you'd have to individually set up the people.
Right. Yeah, so this leverages the advantage of Advisor Server in that you can take advantage of one copy of the data in RAM, in the server RAM, and all the sessions, all the users who are concurrently accessing that project share the one copy of the data. And so each one may see only a small part of it, but if you have multiple users, you're still gaining the efficiency of a single copy.
So clearly there's overlap in what these two do, but the top one is especially good. Like we have clients who have people with different skill sets. So you might have a simpler version of the project for one group of people. Maybe it's the management. You have a richer version for the analysts. Maybe you have another version for the frontline salespeople or whatever. And so that would be a reason to have three separate projects, largely the same data. One's just simpler than the other. You could also have one project, filtered and split into three. So one is dropped, so it's only the East region. The other is the West region, or whatever. The one below is where you have, consistent project, consistent, set of pages, but people are just seeing different subsets. So we've got clients who use combinations of these depending on what the needs of the community are. We're going to look at the first one first and then the second one. So separate projects for separate groups. The idea here is you save the projects in logical groupings, subfolders. For example, if the thing usually we install in C program files Advisor Server, projects, So there might be a folder of projects all regions, another folder of projects central, another east, another west. So this would be breaking the project into 4 groups of users. Then there's a web config. You're going to see this in a second, so I'm going over it fast here. There's a web config file in the directory area of the server, C program files, or wherever this thing is installed. You have to reset it from authentication mode none to authentication mode Windows. That tells us we need to look at authentication. Then you set the security in the subfolders by adding a new web config file to each subfolder. For example, this thing allows the roles, this domain, central team to see this project, and so forth. So John's going to go into more detail, but that's the idea here.
Yeah, and actually what we're showing right here is kind of the brute force way of doing it. If you have Windows Server 2008 R2, which is IIS 7.5, this process of creating this authorization specification is pretty much automated through the IIS management console. Okay, so we're starting out with kind of a blank slate here. I'm actually going to go through the credential-based filters first, since that's kind of the main topic, the advertised topic here. And so first I want to show you where to find this data security configuration file. So if you just go to the C drive, most of you probably know exactly where to find this already, but program files, advisor solutions. Of course, this has to be on a 64-bit system. Advisor server AE, and then in the projects subdirectory, we have here a file datasecurity.config, and you probably never realized it was there because it had no effect. Just take a look at the default contents. It's effectively empty because of the comment tags at the beginning and the end of the text there. So this is an XML file, and I'm going to show you a particular example that I've developed for this demonstration. And so here's a data security strategies file that, again, has two separate strategies defined in it for two different projects. And if we look at the name up here, the first strategy is called SPM Regional Assignments. The second strategy is called Customer Industry Assignments. And we're going to take a look at the second one here. This goes along with the standard customers demo, which I have loaded up in the background here. You're probably familiar with looking at this a little bit. And the scenario here is that this is an analysis of customers for a large company, and it's broken down by regions and by industries. And so for the purposes of this demo, we're going to imagine that we have representatives who are responsible for for customers in different industries. So suppose that we have one representative, we're going to call him Demo 1, who is responsible for kind of blue-collar industries like manufacturing and construction and agriculture and scientific and technical customers. So if you we're just looking in the desktop analyst application here, and so you could filter down to just that set of customers by using the exclude unselected button, and we'll just bring it back. But let's see, first of all, before we go too far, I just wanted to show you that right now we have still the default data security config file in effect here. And so if we were to go to the publish wizard, we just click next, and you see here it gives you the choice of what subdirectory of the projects folder to put this published project into, but then that's the last step. You have a finish button that's showing here. So we'll cancel that, and now we'll put the new data security strategy into effect. I'll just copy this file into or over the default one, and tell it to replace. And notice that by default, Windows is going to give you an extra level of prompting here because the program files directory is protected. So you have to give it an elevated permission to go ahead and copy that file. Now, if we now that data security strategy is in effect, now we can publish this dashboard, and say we publish it as assigned customers, and go to the next, and say we put it in the commercial folder. And now you see we have a next button here. When we hit that, we get this new step of the dialog that we never saw before, and it allows us to enable data security, or it's what we also call credential-based filters. And so here is where we specify the mapping between the users, or what's specified in that data security configuration file, and the data that's actually in the project. So we're going to use the strategy customer industry assignments. Just move this over here a little bit so you can see the different things that we're correlating here. So as you can see, the data security strategy specifies, the name is customer industry assignments. That's what shows up in this drop-down. And we have specified for representative Demo 1 that he's responsible and should only see the manufacturing, agriculture, construction, and scientific technical categories. And now we have to specify the field in the data pool that has those categories. So over here in the publishing wizard, the table is customers, and the field is industry. Okay. So if we were to go ahead and publish, then it would embed this information about the credential-based filter based on this industry field and the customer industry assignments data security strategy. I'm just going to cancel here because I've already set this up. So we'll just bring up a browser and connect to localhost, ADD, to get to the advisor project directory. And now I have this, this machine configured in not really the normal way, but it's prompting for who I want to log in as. So I'm going to log in as representative Demo 1, give it the password, and then we'll get the list, the list of projects that are available. And we publish this project as assigned customers in the commercial subdirectory. So when we bring up this project, it should load pretty quickly here. And we should see that we'll only get the industries that the Demo 1 representative is responsible for. And indeed, we've got manufacturing, agriculture, scientific, technical, and construction. If we try to restore excluded data, select all, we don't get anything more. However, because we set the credential-based filter on the industry field, for which we have a text filter already in the project, you'll find that if you turn that off and back on, all the data actually comes back. It comes back perfectly because it was excluded initially when we set the coloring. So this is something that you want to avoid. So let's go back to the project, the desktop application. And so now we'll just create a copy of that field, of that industry field. And let's say call it IND, let's see, okay. And it's just, the expression is just the name of the field that we're copying. So we evaluate that and click OK. So now we have a new field in our project. And when we go to publish this, maybe it would be good to go back to the best customers, the starting page, the normal starting page before we publish. But let's publish this dashboard. And so that new field we created, that copy of the industry field, is not actually used in any chart in the project. But we're going to, let's see, let's call this, I don't know, industry customers. And we'll, again, publish it to the commercial subdirectory and enable data security. We're going to use the customer industry assignment, the same data strategy as we had before. But now we're going to pick the new field that, the new field that we created in a SIG. And we'll finish. Oh, okay, I guess I had previously done this. Just override that. Okay, and so we've successfully published the project, and now if we bring up our browser again, again, I'll log in as Demo 1. And so we see the industry customers that I just published. And now if we open that project, it loads pretty quick. And we should see the same thing as before with just the demo 1 industries represented: manufacturing, agricultural, construction, scientific, technical. But now if we go to the filters and reports page, we still have that industry filter. And we can turn all those industries off, turn them back on, go to the best customers page, and nothing's changed. So that's how you ensure the security of your credential-based filters. Make sure you don't have a text filter in the project that uses the same field that you're specifying for your credential-based filter or your data security strategy. Okay, so let's see. Now we're in the advisor server environment here, just to show you how these other representatives are treated. I closed the browser because Internet Explorer, and I think probably other browsers, remember the credentials that you specified. So by closing the browser, then opening it again, it prompts again for a user ID, and I can specify. Now we'll look at the demo 3 representative. Okay, and again we get the same project directory, but now when we open the same project, the industry customers project, it's going to be filtered according to what the demo 3 representative is responsible for, which is just government customers. And you see that was specified in the data security configuration file under the demo 3 user included just the government industry.
Hey, John,
and just to continue with the demonstration here, I was saying that these different representatives, again, to reiterate that demo 1 was responsible for and able to see just these 4 industries. Demo 3 was responsible for and able to see only the government industry. The demo 2 here is configured to be able to see everything except government and education, because the filter type is exclude. So that might be someone who's kind of a supervisor type of role. And then, of course, we can also have an administrator configuration here, and here nothing is excluded. So this user would be able to see all the data. Okay, so I think that covers the credential-based filters pretty well. I have another more typical advancement type of project I can show you if you like, but before we get into that, I think you might like to see just how this alternative strategy or alternative mechanism works. Or if we don't want to use the credential-based filtering, but we want to publish separate projects for the different communities or the different users, we can do that in separate subdirectories. And then we can apply different credentials or permissions to those different. The first step here is that you would need to create subdirectories under the projects directory for your different groups or sets of users, the different restricted versions of the project. And then in order to specify the permissions on those, let me go to the IIS manager. And here we can see the different, I've expanded the tree to look at the different subdirectories of the projects directory. And if this is with IIS 7.5, we have a .NET authorization feature. And you can see that at the application, the advisor server level, we've specified that the representatives Demo 1, Demo 2, Demo 3 have access to the project directory. But at this level, you see it's a local entry for the East customers level. We deny access to the Demo 2 and Demo 3 customers or representatives. Similarly, at the Midwest customers level, we specify that access is denied to Demo 1 and Demo 3, so only Demo 2 has access to that version of the project, and the West customers similarly is accessible only by the Demo 3 representative or the administrative account. And if you want to see that in a notepad, just to see what that web.config file looks like, this is just like Doug had earlier in the PowerPoint presentation. So here it's specified deny those particular users.
And John, this could be users or domain groups.
Correct, yeah. On this particular demo system, I don't have any groups set up, but that is an advantage here with this alternative for controlling who gets access to the data. All right, so now to see how we would actually publish the project, here is where we use the filters. And so I'm going to show you how you would just select only the eastern region initially. And now we want to publish that project. So on the publishing dashboard, we need to remember to not publish the page that has that filter on it, because otherwise that's effectively the same thing as we said before. With the credential-based filter, you have to have that set on a different field than what is visible in the project. So here we have to exclude this page that has the filter on it so that the restricted users cannot give themselves the capability back. So then when we would just go through the wizard, we specify, okay, this version of the project, we have everything filtered out except the East region, so we're going to put that in the East customers subdirectory. And then in this case, we wouldn't need the data security, or we wouldn't use that, and so we would just publish the project in that way. And so I've already done this, and just to illustrate how that comes out, so this time I'll log in as Demo 1 again. Oops. I think I mistyped the password there. Okay, and so now we're going to look at the East Customers project. And sure enough, that'll come up with just the East region visible. Right, just the East region, and you can see that the filters page is not included in the published project, so this user has no way to get access to the other regions at all.
So what's fundamentally different here, because the output is similar to the first thing you showed, but it's denying or accepting access to the projects. So if somebody who didn't have permission to access this project tried to do that and he wasn't authorized, what would happen?
But now if we go back to the project directory and try to access as Demo 1 one of the other regions, like the Midwest South, it's not going to accept the fact that I entered Demo 1. Enter the password again, it still prompts for it. And so if I just, I could enter at this point the Demo 2 account credentials, and then it would accept it and show me that project, but otherwise if I hit cancel, it'll give me this error message. Now, understand that the drawback of this is that you basically are managing more projects. You have 3 versions of the project in 3 different directories, and if all the different representatives are logged in at the same time, then you have 3 different copies of the data in memory, so it's less efficient.
But we also do have accounts that are using these in combination, so you could put different projects in different directories, and then when you're allowed in, they can apply a security strategy to it.
Right, yeah, that could
because way back at the beginning, we talked about you might want to have 3 separate projects: one for management, one for analysts, and one for frontline people. And it might be, the managers is restricted to just managers. Anybody else running is going to get access denied. But then when the managers come in, it applies a strategy. So somebody might see the entire globe. Somebody might see North America. Somebody else might come on and see the Northeast region as a manager.
Right.
So there's 2 strategies that can relate to each other, be used together, but they do things a little differently. And it's designing them is you've got to go around with who are the users and what are you actually trying to enable them to do or not do.
Right.
So I know we're in overtime, and sort of some of these are coming in as questions. I say this, John, anything else, because I do want to be cognizant of the timing here.
Right. I think I've covered everything that I had prepared. We've got the different alternatives for securing access to your project, and showed you how to configure the different mechanisms.
So we've recorded this. We'll have this published now. This also, as shown in the beginning, there's a full help context on this, and we're obviously available at support@advisorsolutions.com to work with any of you who are trying to implement these strategies. We can help conceptually of which strategy or combinations and how to actually execute it. There's some differences based on which version, which rev of Microsoft operating environments you're working with, but it's conceptually, I think, John, you did a great job of showing what it is we do.
Thank you.
And there are other questions that have come in. We'll follow up on individually after this. Thanks for your time.
Bye now.